Today, we're doing something a little different. Usually when I make ranking videos, I focus on the gloves themselves. But what if we dig deeper and uncover the lore behind some of these gloves? Now I know it might sound a bit silly, but bear with me. I am curious about the lore that the Slap Battles community has come up with. And to take it even further, I'll be ranking several pieces of lore that we explore. So if you're ready, let's dive in. The first piece of lore on our list will be a subreddit post by a user named 5 Long Nights. And they actually covered quite a lot of glove lores, so we might return to this page later. But the first piece of lore that we'll be going over is Guide's lore. Guide was a helpful NPC who told players info and helped them. Due to unknown circumstances, the players wanted Guide dead after only a week, causing him to clone himself in replica and hiding the body of his murdered clone under the lobby. Guide then moved to the Slap Royale island before realizing there were players here too. So he wrote notes about everything. But in the last part of the note, Guide says he's gonna run one final time. But next time, he will hold his ground, implying a Guide boss fight in the future. Now in my opinion, this was actually pretty well made. This makes sense for the most part, and everything pretty much correlates with each other. The author also mentions that this lore is canon, and it's all confirmed from secret notes found in the cabin. But we won't be ranking the lores based on whether it's canon or not. It'll be based off the actual storytelling of the lore itself. So I'm ranking this at number 4. Also keep in mind, these rankings may change as the video progresses, so these rankings are not finalized until the end of the video. So make sure to watch till the end. This next lore on our list comes from a website called fandom.com. I'm pretty sure this website is some sort of platform that has wikis or origins about different video game characters, so this website is more general towards video game topics. But the main focus is Bob. Yes, we're going to be reading Bob's lore, and it seems that Bob probably has the most lores. I'm not sure why, maybe it's because he's an entity in the game and players love entities? But anyways, let's start reading Bob's lore. Bob was originally the Greek god of darkness, Erebus, also known as the bringer of blindness. He was a rebellious and mischievous god that enjoyed tormenting the mortals of Earth. Eventually, the other gods decided to banish Erebus, encasing him within a gauntlet as punishment, allowing the humans of Earth to use his power instead of having his power used on them. They did not refer to him as Erebus, but abbreviated the name he once used for terror, bringer of blindness, to Bob, humiliating him, and bringing down the legacy he once held. Due to his encasement within the gauntlet, he is unable to take his true form. His powers are limited. Bob's power can be harnessed by whoever wields the gauntlet, being able to summon his entrapped form, having to obey the holder's commands. But unbeknownst to the mortals, the more times Bob's powers are used, and the more people that Bob absorbs, the more power he gains. Whilst not being a large amount, over time it could lead to dire consequences. There have been several occasions where Bob had been able to break free of his restraints and cause havoc, albeit not on the same level as he caused when he was still a god, though the casualties and damage left behind are still tremendous. Despite his lack of power, Bob is able to take many forms, although none of them matching the strength of his true form. Some forms are more monstrous than others. With the passing of time, Bob has become more aggravated, sick of his chains and longing to be free from his prison. And even within his limited form, he is seen to be growing stronger, being able to slip free of the gauntlet more often, although still ending right back where he was. But in these small instances of being free, Bob has caused havoc wherever he can, playing tricks, illusions, and messing with people's minds, just as he used to a millennia ago. Not long after Bob's occurrences, a group calling themselves the Opposition formed, and took notice of his outbursts of chaos and began to track down where he would appear. They tried gathering as much information about him as possible, though they could find next to nothing of his past. They knew that Bob's shackles were growing weaker the longer he stayed entombed within the gauntlet. So they began to experiment, trying what they could create to combat Bob if he were to ever regain his freedom. Though failed tests after failed tests, there seemed to be no hope in creating something of use. Until one day, a scientist rushed back to the lab with what looked like a sample from Bob himself, left behind from one of his rampages. A vial containing black goo-like substances. They finally had something to work with. And with that, they spent hours, days, and months experimenting with a tiny glimmer of hope visible within the distance. Finally, after all of their hard work, they had created a living organism. It had a similar structure to Bob, gooey in nature and beady little eyes, though one main difference being that his creature was white, and its eyes were tinted green, unlike Bob's black and yellow palette. Experiment 808, the one true successor to all their failed attempts. The scientists collectively titled the creature Rob, also known as the Returner of Brightness, a fitting name for the creation that would hopefully bring down Bob's reigning of terror. Years passed as the organism grew larger and larger. It was nothing like Bob, quite the opposite. It was kind, caring, and docile. Though it still had the intent of playing games, it was nothing on the level of what Bob believed a game truly was. It was friendly. Though despite this, Rob was to be contained within his chamber, and was not to be let out under any circumstances. He had still not yet reached full maturity, and letting him out before that could lead to unforeseen consequences. No one would be able to predict what would happen with Rob and Bob if they met before he was able to fully develop. On one fateful day, as the scientists were arriving at the lab, when they entered Rob's chamber, the glass had been shattered. The container's fluids were spilled across the floor, and most importantly, Rob was gone. No one knew where he had gone, and he had not left a single trace. The scientists were rightfully losing their minds. Their one chance of hope that they had been slaving over for years was now gone, and could be anywhere in the world. There is no telling what will happen next. Only fate will decide the cruel judgment of the actions that have been taken. Time will tell. So, that story was quite long, but I did like the storytelling. It was well explained, and as I read, I actually felt immersed. Just based off the storytelling itself, I'm placing this at number 1. I mean, it was amazing. I can tell there was a lot of time invested into this lore. Props to whoever the original author is. And with that, I think it's time to move on. The next lore on our list will be Null, and we'll be returning back to the subreddit post from earlier, where we found Guide's lore. Here, we are talking about the Null Zone, which can be entered by Rob and Bob colliding, making a portal. Evidenced by the note found near the fire bridge, the Null Zone seems to be literally hell, and is ruled over by the devil. Whether it's literally the slap battle's equivalent of Satan, or a being using that title, is unknown. The note states to never enter unless you want to play into the devil's hand. This is confirmed by a secret note found near the extending fire bridge. Additionally, there is a room where you get the Tinker Glove in the Null realm, and looks to be a church, suggesting the Nulls worship the devil. It is also important to note that Erebus in the original Greek myths is also the ruler of a part of hell, meaning it is possible the devil is actually Erebus or Bob. Now, this lore in particular is a little more dark than the others. I also find it interesting how Null's lore is related to Bob, since Bob is Erebus, which is the god of darkness according to Greek mythology. And because of the fact that this lore branches into another lore, I'll place this at number 2. Next up, we have the admin lore. The admin glove obtainment takes place in the admin trials, a pocket dimension where Tencel tests new admins. This area seems to have ties with the Mandela catalog, with it using audio from it and the entity being 6, also known as the Intruder. This dimension seems specifically designed to torment and break people. This is confirmed through obtainment. If this dimension's entity and the Intruder are the exact same, perhaps Tencel hired 6 to help him with the trials, in exchange for people who fail the trials. If they are different entities, however, he might be a man who Tencel succeeded in driving insane, and has worked for him ever since, with the similarities to 6 being a coincidence. At the end, you are sent into an asylum where Tencel torments you with sounds for 1 hour. One thing that this area proves is that Tencel isn't 100% good, but he's still slightly better than Erebus. However, even after surviving the suffering, the author doesn't believe that you're one of the gods, but rather a disciple, an agent of the admins. But this is just a speculation. I personally think this lore was not as good as some of the others, but that doesn't mean I don't like it. It just doesn't feel as smooth as the others. But I did like the speculation of the admin dimension's entity being tied to the Mandela Catalog's intruder. So I must say, that part did intrigue me. So I'm placing this at number 3. Now the last lore on our list is Pim. And while I was looking for the lore, Google decided to give me an AI overview. So let's check that out. So according to Gemini AI, or whatever this AI overview is, in slab battles, Pim is a powerful entity resembling a distorted duck head, primarily associated with the Elude Maze and the Nightmare Glove. He is an antagonist who appears to be trapped or controlled by other entities, possibly serving the Eyes or even Erebus. Why does every lore correlate to Bob? Pim is also linked to the Unknown Glove, which is used to bring people to the Void where he can potentially consume their souls. Alright, so that's not enough information for us, so let's go back to the subreddit post. Pim at some point was either a duck or an admin who went insane and went on a killing spree, causing him to be hunted down by Tencel and imprisoned in the maze. It is unconfirmed whether the Eyes are servants of Pim or Pim serves the Eyes. Alright, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of the same as the AI overview, so yeah, that's Pim's lore. Now you already know, there's only one spot left, so Pim will now land at number 5. Now just hold on a sec, we still have to finalize the list. Now honestly, this list to me looks somewhat fine already. However, I've changed my mind just a little, so I think Guide deserves to be a little higher. Now there's the final rankings. Let me know what you think of the list down in the comments below. Also share your own rankings because I love to see everyone's perspectives. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to join my Discord server down in the description below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!